Chapter 1, Section 8. Objective, learn to solve an equation for the value of the variable. Essential question, how do I show my steps when solving an equation? Vocabulary terms, equation, and inverse operation. An equation is a mathematical sentence that uses an equal sign to show that two expressions have the same value. All of these below are equations. 3 plus 8 equals 11, r plus 6 equals 14, 24 equals x minus 7, and 100 divided by 2 equals 50. So you can see there can be a combination of variables and numbers as long as we have an equal sign and both sides are balanced. To solve an equation that contains a variable, find the value of the variable that makes the equation true. This value of the variable is called the solution of the equation. Addition and subtraction are what are called inverse operations, which means they undo each other. To solve an equation, get the variable alone on one side of the equal sign. The inverse of multiplication would be division. An example, dividing by 5 is the opposite of multiplying by 5. The inverse of addition is subtraction. Example, the opposite of adding 3 is subtracting 3. Example 1. First, determine which value of x is the solution of the equation. So we have x plus 8 equals 15, and they're giving us three values, x equals 5, 7, or 23. To figure out which one's a solution, it would be whatever number works when you plug it in for x that equals 15 when 8 is added to it. So let's start with 5. If we substitute 5 in, 5 plus 8 equals 13, which is not the same as 15. So 5 is not a solution. Let's try 7. 7 plus 8 equals 15. So 7 is a solution. And just to verify, 23 plus 8 is 31. 31 is not equal to 15. 23 is not a solution. So our solution was 7. To solve a subtraction equation, like y minus 15 equals 7, you would use what's called the addition property of equality. The addition property of equality says that you can add the same number to both sides of an equation and the statement will still be true. Think of it like a scale. If you put 3 pounds on one side and 3 pounds on the other, your scale will stay in the same place that it was before you added that weight. So you can see where it's 2 plus 3 equals 5. If we add 4 to both sides, 2 plus 7 equals 9, our equation is still true. Our numbers have changed, but it didn't change the fact that it was true. There's a similar property for solving addition equations, like x plus 9 equals 11. It's called the subtraction property of equality. So it's the same concept. You can subtract the same number from both sides of an equation and the statement will still be true. Again, think about a scale. If I take away 3 marbles on one side and 3 marbles on the other, I haven't changed the balance. I've changed how many marbles there are, but the balance of the scale is the same. So we could subtract 3 in our example and get 4 plus 4 equals 8, which is true, and it was 4 plus 7 equals 11. In your notes, thinking about the addition and subtraction properties of equality, explain how is solving an equation similar to balancing a scale. Pause here if you need time. So let's solve. 3 plus x equals 13. If we want to solve this, we have to go through a few steps. We can all look at this and say, sure, x is 10, because we know 3 plus 10 is 13. But to prove it, we would have to take the 3 and eliminate it. So to get rid of 3 positives, we subtract 3. But the properties we just read about tell us we have to do the same on both sides of the equal sign to keep it balanced. So 3 minus 3 would give us 0. We still have plus x, and 13 minus 3 gives us 10. Now we know 0 plus x is x, so So x equals 10. We've proved it. We've shown our work. We can do the same with decimals. Okay, I want to get x by itself, so I'm going to leave the negative 97.854 alone, and I need to get rid of the negative 56.532. So if I have negative 56 and 32 hundredths, in order to get that to be 0, to eliminate it, because it's a negative, I do the opposite, which would be a positive. So it's kind of like minus and plus, but it's just negative positive. So I would add 56 and 32 hundredths, which cancels out to equal 0. But in order to keep this balanced, I have to do the same thing to the other side, or I will have lost my balance and it won't be true anymore. Remember, when you line up decimals, you line up the decimal point, and if there's an empty space, you put a 0. So we're adding to a negative, which really means that we're subtracting. So we would have 4, 3, 5, 1, 4, and because our negative number is the larger, if they were positives, I would keep it negative. So now I have 0 plus x equals negative 41 and 534 thousandths. 0 plus x again is x. So x equals negative 41.534. Quick way to know you're right. Take your number for x, plug it back in, and add those two numbers together to verify that it's correct. Let's solve. 10 plus n equals 18. Okay, again, we probably know the answer is n equals 8. I understand that. The most important part of this lesson, though, is learning how to show your work, because we're going to move on to multiple step equations very quickly, and it becomes very difficult if you don't show your steps the same way. So the first thing I want to do is get n by itself. So I have positive 10 that I need to get rid of. So I would eliminate that by subtracting 10 from both sides. 10 minus 10 is 0, so 0 plus n, and 18 minus 10 is 8. Well, 0 plus n is just n, so n equals 8. Check our answer. Okay, well, we said before that we knew n was 8 because we looked at it ahead of time. If we plug n in, or 8 in for n, 10 plus 8 is 18. The beautiful part about solving equations is you should always know that you have the right answer if you take the time to check it. Last one. Solve 33 equals y minus 11. Okay, this is a unique one. The variable's on the right side. Does that change what we do? No. Look at the variable. It's y minus 11. So that tells me that I have to get rid of the minus 11. Okay, well, the opposite of subtracting 11 would be to add 11. So I know I'm going to add 11, and when I do that, I add it to both sides. So 33 plus 11 gives me 44. And when I look at the 11, focus on the fact that this is an independent problem. Negative 11 plus 11 is 0. We just got done talking about adding integers. When you have one positive, one negative that are the same value, they're gone, they cancel. So if we keep going, y plus 0 is y, so 44 equals y. And that's our answer. But before we move on, let's make sure we were correct. So I would put the 44 back in for y, just like when we substituted at the very beginning of the chapter, and check. Okay, if it's really true, then 44 minus 11 needs to equal 33, which it does, and we are correct. To finish up, make sure your Cornell notes are filled out completely, review your notes and complete the summary before class, and come prepared to take a lesson quiz on how well you understood the material.